All right, we are running out of time, folks. I believe today, honestly, is the last day that we could possibly see a stimulus package pushed through Congress. I think this time is up. I'm going to give you a bunch of reasons why I believe that's the case. Because number one, we're up against a big calendar. Let's just put it in perspective. This skinny, crappy stimulus bill from the Republicans is likely going to be the only chance we have to get any kind of stimulus. And here's why. If you're new here to the channel, this is what we've been deep diving because I think it's incredibly important. So welcome to Morning Invest. Thanks for subscribing to the channel and being a part of this amazing community. We have upwards of 400,000 people here who join us. So thank you so much for being a part of this community. I love our amazing community. I love all of you who are getting real news and not paid for by big corporations, media. That's what this channel is all about. So the reality of this legislative calendar right now, let's talk about this on the stimulus front. The reality for this legislative calendar is that they go on vacation on October 9th. Congress goes on vacation on October 9th so they can campaign and get back to pretending that they want to keep their job, right? They're going to go campaign. They're going to go back home to their home districts. They are allowed that time to campaign for re-election. Many of them are up for re-election. Mitch McConnell is one of them. So October 9th, they go on vacation. Today, it is September 10th. Now, that gives us about 20 days, business days or so to work. And we also have some holidays in there, too, that they're off. And right now, they're having to vote and get through this legislation on government shutdown, which is the main focus by the end of the month. That would push, at least there's some sort of a bipartisan agreement to push this beyond the November election. But right now, the reality is that historically, in an election year after Labor Day, and everyone knows this in Washington, anyone who's covered politics for any length of time knows that in an election year after Labor Day, the chances of getting any substantial legislation through don't exist. Nothing happens. You do not vote on major legislation after Labor Day before the November election. Why? Well, the big reason is that members don't want to take any risky compromises that could cost them their re-election bid. So suddenly one of these, moderate Republicans decides to join with the Democrats and vote for a much larger stimulus package, like Susan Collins or others. It's not going to happen as they're up for re-election. They don't want to be on the record for having compromised. This is the thing that would cost them their election. The same thing is true of Democrats who have been pushing for a larger stimulus. They're not going to balk. They're not going to go for the small, skinny, crappy stimulus that has nothing in it. They're going to be laughed out. Then think about the person running against them. It's going to say, this person voted for Mitch McConnell's. You can see it now, right? You can see the ads on television. Jim Smith voted for Mitch McConnell's skinny bill. Does he not care about you? Vote him out on November. You can see it now. I could write the ad for him. And if I'm a Democrat, why would I vote for this crappy bill? They've had a bill on their table now for over 3 months. And now Republicans hit pause over the summer, didn't want to do anything about it. And now they want to blame Democrats. That's been the strategy. And, the others can say, well, Democrats are not caving. Sure, they did. They took $1 trillion off of their plan. They were willing to come down $1 trillion. That's a lot of money. So we've got a couple of big reasons here. This crappy, skinny bill that's going to be voted on today, unless they somehow get bipartisan Democratic support to pass this, that's it. I do not see them coming together on any compromise legislation over the next few weeks. If you want a stimulus package, it's probably not going to be until after the election, maybe by the end of the year at this point. Here's the sticking point, right? We have this crappy stimulus package. It has liability protections for some businesses. It has some money for reopening schools and an unemployment benefits at $300, which is half of what it was a few months ago. That's it. That's really what's in this package. Mitch McConnell, of course, went after Democrats on this when he announced this bill just the other day and said that the Democrats are to blame for not willing to compromise, dragging their feet. Listen to Senator Mitch McConnell on the Republican side. Then we're going to hear from Chuck Schumer in a second.
The Democratic leaders have spent months playing these Goldilocks games. They've complained about every single thing we've put forward, but they've produced nothing of their own with any chance whatsoever of becoming law. Meanwhile, after all their blustering that Congress should never do anything piecemeal, Speaker Pelosi came rushing back to Washington to pass the most piecemeal bill you could possibly imagine.
There you go.
Come on, man.
Really? He's saying that with a straight face. Well, the Democrats just don't want to work on this. They just don't understand what time to have Mitch McConnell has got to go. He's been a disaster for the people of Kentucky, by the way, ranking almost dead last in every category. Should be ashamed of himself. Here's Chuck Schumer on the other side, firing back with his own political arrows. Take a listen to what he says about Republicans who haven't done anything and took a pause on this whole thing.
The Republican leader said Democrats are delaying things. Was it Democrats who called for a pause? Was it Democrats when COVID was raging, said we had to assess the situation? Oh, no. It was the Republican leader who said those things. Meanwhile, Democrats in the House, supported by Democrats in the Senate, had passed a strong, comprehensive bill. We've just been waiting and waiting for our Republican friends to get their act together so they might come close, even near, coming to the moment that we needed. So after taking a pause on COVID relief for 4 months, finally, Senate Republicans are realizing the damage that their delay has done to our economy and the nation's health.
And they're passing this skinny bill. Okay, so there's two reasons why I believe we're not going to see any further stimulus, compromise, or any broader big package. I believe time is up, and I believe this skinny bill is it. This is it, and it's coming up for a vote today. And Democrats are not going to support it. There's two big reasons why. The calendar gives them only about 20 business days to come up with anything before they have to head back and campaign. I can't see that happening. Both parties are entrenched on their positions, and they are holding firm. They are not changing positions. And Democrats have said, we're not supporting this little skinny bill that doesn't have any direct checks for American workers, doesn't have any frontline money for frontline workers. It doesn't have any money for state and local governments. It is basically a Republican bill that has liability protections for businesses and has a little bit of money for unemployment, but half of what Democrats wanted and what was already in place at $600 a week, which kept people out of poverty. By the way, why cut that in half? You know why? Because over 20 Republicans in the Senate don't want anything. They think the government has spent too much money already, and they might be right. I mean, it's, up to you if you think that that's the case. I mean, the government has spent trillions of dollars, but the Federal Reserve doesn't think so. The Federal Reserve, and we're going to talk about just in a moment here, of like why I think we're heading for an economic collapse. But the Federal Reserve, remember Jerome Powell, says the economy will need more government spending and going to keep interest rates low and pushing Congress to pass some sort of comprehensive stimulus bill to get more money into the hands of the American people. Is Congress paying attention to the Federal Reserve and other members of the Federal Reserve Board? No, they're not. They're not listening. Senate wants to pass this skinny bill and try to, and then they're going to throw up their hands and say that they tried. Where's the presidential leadership on this? Let me know in the comments below if you think that they're going to pass any kind of stimulus package in the next 2 weeks. Call it 2 weeks, really. Let's think about it. I don't believe so. I would be stunned at this point if they come to some sort of agreement. If they can come to 1.5 trillion or 2 trillion on a package, I would be stunned. There's no Republican support for it, and I just don't see it happening, especially if you don't have direct stimulus checks in there. So go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Smash that like button, please. And don't forget to subscribe to our daily morning newsletter. We send it out first thing in the morning. We're trying to get 400 new subscribers. So if you're not subscribed, do it. It's totally free. morninginvest.com.